The Valorian Empire had ruled the eastern spiral arm of the galaxy for 12,000 years. Their ships were the largest. Their weapons were the most powerful. Their soldiers numbered in the trillions. Every species they encountered had two choices: kneel or die. Most chose to kneel. Grand Admiral Torvax stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Dominion, and watched the blue and green planet spin slowly beneath him. Earth, the humans called it. Such a small world. Such a young species. They had only discovered faster-than-light travel 50 years ago. They were nothing compared to the might of the Valorian Empire. "Admiral," his communications officer said, "the human delegation has arrived." Torvax smiled, showing all 4 rows of his sharp teeth. "Bring them to the observation deck. Let them see what awaits their world if they refuse our generous offer." The observation deck was designed to intimidate. The walls were made of transparent crystal, showing the massive border fleet that surrounded Earth. 3,000 warships hung in space like metal mountains. Each one could glass a continent in minutes. Together, they could end all life on Earth in less than a day. The human delegation was small, just 5 people in simple gray uniforms. They did not look afraid as they walked across the deck. Torvax found this annoying. Every other species had trembled when they saw the fleet. The Corvani had surrendered immediately. The Thrix had tried to fight and lost everything. The humans should be on their knees already. The leader of the delegation was a woman with gray hair and calm eyes. She introduced herself as Ambassador Sarah Chen. "Welcome to the Eternal Dominion," Torvax said, spreading his 4 arms wide. "I trust you have seen our fleet." "We have," Ambassador Chen said. Her voice was steady. 3,000 ships, very impressive." "The largest fleet we have ever assembled for a first contact," Torvax said proudly. "Your species should feel honored." "We feel something," one of the other humans muttered. Torvax ignored him. "Let me explain how this works," Torvax continued. "The Valorian Empire offers you a simple choice. Join us as a subject species, pay tribute, provide soldiers for our armies, and accept our rule. In return, we will protect you from the dangers of the galaxy." "And if we refuse?" Ambassador Chen asked. Torvax pointed at the fleet outside. "Then we will destroy your civilization. Your cities will burn. Your people will die. Your planet will become another dead rock floating in space. We have done this many times before. We are very good at it." The ambassador nodded slowly. She looked at the fleet for a long moment. Then she turned back to Torvax. "I need to share something with you, Admiral. A story from Earth's history." Torvax blinked all 6 of his eyes. "A story? We are discussing the fate of your species, and you want to tell a story." "It is relevant," Ambassador Chen said. "Many centuries ago, there was a nation on Earth called Japan. They were a proud people with a powerful military. One day, they attacked another nation called the United States. They thought the attack would make the Americans afraid. They thought it would make them surrender." "Did it?" Torvax asked, growing bored. "No," Ambassador Chen said. "It made them angry. And when humans get angry, Admiral, we do not surrender. We do not negotiate. We fight until there is nothing left to fight. The Japanese learned this lesson. We are a patient people, but our patience has limits." Torvax laughed. It was a deep, rumbling sound that echoed through the observation deck. "You compare your primitive species to our mighty empire. We have conquered 1,000 worlds. We have armies beyond counting. What do you have? A few hundred ships, some nuclear weapons. You are children playing with toys." Ambassador Chen smiled. It was not a friendly smile. "You are making a mistake, Admiral. My government has authorized me to give you one warning. Leave our space. Take your fleet and go. If you attack Earth, there will be consequences." "Consequences?" Torvax leaned forward, his massive form blocking out the light. "Let me show you consequences." He pressed a button on his command band. Outside the window, one of the smaller warships turned toward Earth's moon. A beam of purple light shot from its weapons array. The beam struck the moon's surface, and a crater 50 kilometers wide exploded into existence. Rock and dust flew into space. "That was your moon," Torvax said. "Imagine what we could do to your cities, to your families, to everything you have ever built." The humans watched in silence. Torvax expected them to cry, to beg, to fall to their knees. Instead, Ambassador Chen turned to one of her companions. "Did you record that?" she asked. "Every second," the man replied. "Good." Ambassador Chen looked at Torvax. "You just attacked human territory. You destroyed part of our moon. We have been patient with you, Admiral. We have tried to be diplomatic, but you have crossed a line." "A line?" Torvax snorted. "You have no power to draw lines." "We will see." Ambassador Chen stepped closer to the Admiral. She was tiny compared to his massive frame, but she did not seem to notice. "I am going to tell you something that only a few beings in this galaxy know. Humans are not like other species. We did not discover faster-than-light travel 50 years ago. We discovered it 200 years ago." Torvax froze. "That is impossible. Our scouts would have detected your ships." "Would they?" Ambassador Chen's smile grew wider. "Admiral, you have made two critical errors. First, you assumed that we were young and weak. Second, you made us angry." She pressed a button on her wrist device. "We are leaving now. I suggest you enjoy the next few hours." A transport beam grabbed the human delegation and pulled them away. Torvax stood alone on the observation deck, surrounded by the might of 3,000 warships. He felt a strange feeling in his chest. It took him a moment to recognize it. Fear. He shook it off. The humans were bluffing. They had to be bluffing. No species could hide their true power from the Valorian Empire for 200 years. It was impossible. But as he walked back to his command center, he could not shake the memory of Ambassador Chen's smile. It was the smile of someone who knew something he did not. The smile of someone who was looking forward to what came next. "Admiral," his sensor officer called out, "we are detecting something strange." "What is it?" "I do not know, sir. The readings do not make sense. There appears to be a massive energy buildup on the far side of the human moon." Torvax moved to the sensor station and looked at the readings. The officer was right. The energy levels were enormous, larger than anything he had ever seen, larger than a supernova, larger than a black hole formation. "What could possibly generate that much power?" he whispered. He would find out soon enough. 12 hours passed. The energy readings grew stronger and stronger. Torvax ordered his fleet to battle stations. He sent probes toward the moon, but they disappeared before they could transmit any data. He demanded answers from his science officers, but they had none to give. The waiting was the worst part. Torvax had fought in hundreds of battles during his long career. He had faced enemies that outnumbered him. He had faced enemies with superior weapons, but he had never faced an enemy he could not see. He had never waited for an attack that he could not predict. His officers grew nervous. They whispered to each other when they thought he was not listening. They wondered what the humans were planning. They wondered if they would survive the night. Torvax tried to keep them focused. He ordered drills and inspections. He walked through the ship, talking to the crew, reminding them of their duty. But he could see the fear in their eyes. They had all heard the stories about the border fleet's power. They had all believed they were invincible. Now they were not so sure. Then at exactly midnight Earth time, the sky changed. It started as a small point of light on the far side of the moon. The light grew brighter and brighter until it was impossible to look at directly. The sensors went wild with readings that made no sense. Temperature spikes that should have vaporized matter. Gravity waves that should have torn ships apart. Energy levels that should not have been possible. And then the light faded, and Torvax saw what the humans had been hiding. A ship. No, not a ship. A city. A moon. Something so vast that his mind struggled to comprehend it. The human vessel was larger than the moon itself. It had simply appeared from nowhere, as if it had always been there and the universe had only just noticed. "That is impossible," his science officer whispered. "Nothing that size could exist. The physics do not allow it." "Apparently," Torvax said quietly, "they do." The human vessel had no visible weapons. It had no shields that the sensors could detect. It simply sat there, vast and silent, blocking out the stars behind it. And then it spoke. The voice came through every communication channel at once. It was the voice of Ambassador Chen. "Admiral Torvax, you were warned. You attacked our moon anyway. Now you will face the consequences. Our vessel is called the Patience of Stone. It has been waiting in folded space for 200 years, ready for this day. We hoped we would never need it. We hoped that the galaxy would be peaceful, but we prepared anyway. That is what humans do. We prepare for the worst while hoping for the best." Torvax found his voice. "What do you want?" "What we have always wanted, to be left alone. But you could not do that, could you? You had to come here with your fleet. You had to threaten our world. You had to attack our moon." The ambassador's voice grew cold. "You had to make us angry." "We can negotiate," Torvax said quickly. "The Empire is willing to discuss terms." "It is too late for negotiation, Admiral. You crossed the line when you fired on our territory. Now there is only one question left to answer." "What question?" "Do you want your fleet to die quickly or slowly?" The bridge was silent. Every officer stared at the viewscreen, at the massive human vessel that filled the entire view. Torvax tried to think of something to say, some way to escape this situation, but his mind was blank. The first attack came without warning. One moment the fleet's defensive screens were intact. The next moment they were gone, not damaged, not overloaded, just gone as if they had never existed. Then the ship started disappearing. It began with the outer ring of the formation. 300 ships simply vanished. There was no explosion, no debris, no energy signatures. They were there and then they were not. The crews had no time to send distress signals. They had no time to pray to their gods. They simply ceased to exist. "What is happening?" Torvax screamed. "Where are my ships?" "Unknown, Admiral," his officer replied, voice shaking. "They appear to have been transported somewhere, but our sensors cannot detect the destination." Another wave of ships disappeared, and another, and another. Torvax watched helplessly as his mighty border fleet vanished piece by piece. The Eternal Dominion's weapons fired at the human vessel, but the beams simply passed through it as if it were not there. Nothing touched it. Nothing affected it. It might as well have been a ghost. "Admiral," the communications officer called out. "Incoming transmission from the human vessel." Ambassador Chen's voice filled the bridge again. "You are wondering where your ships are going. I will tell you. We are sending them to a pocket dimension, a small universe that our scientists created 2 centuries ago. Your crews will live there in comfort for the rest of their lives. They will have food, water, shelter. They will not be harmed, but they will never return to this universe. They will never threaten Earth again." "You cannot do this," Torvax said. "This is not possible." "You keep saying that," Ambassador Chen replied, "and yet here we are." Another 1,000 ships disappeared. The battle formation was collapsing. Ships tried to run, but there was nowhere to go. Ships tried to fight, but their weapons were useless. The greatest fleet in the history of the Valorian Empire was being erased from existence, one ship at a time. Torvax made a decision. All ships retreat, jump to hyperspace immediately. But the hyperspace drives did not respond. Something was blocking them. The ships could not move. They could not fight. They could only wait as the human weapon claimed them one by one. "I will give you a choice, Admiral," Ambassador Chen said. "You can surrender now and join your fleet in the pocket dimension, or you can stay and watch as every ship under your command disappears. Either way, this ends the same way. Your border fleet will cease to exist. The Valorian Empire will learn that humans are not to be threatened." Torvax looked around his bridge. His officers were terrified. Some were crying, others were praying. The greatest fleet the Empire had ever assembled was being erased from existence, and there was nothing they could do to stop it. He thought about fighting, he thought about dying with honor, but what honor was there in this? They were not being defeated, they were being collected like insects in a jar. "I surrender," he said. The words tasted like ash in his mouth. "I surrender." "A wise choice," Ambassador Chen said. "Do not worry, Admiral. The pocket dimension is quite comfortable. You will have everything you need. You will just never see the stars of this universe again." The last thing he saw before the light took him was the blue and green planet spinning slowly below. Earth. Such a small world. Such a young species. Such a terrible mistake to make them angry. The news reached the Valorian homeworld 3 days later. The entire border fleet had disappeared. 3,000 ships, 12 million soldiers. The greatest military force the Empire had ever assembled gone without a trace. No debris, no survivors, no explanation. The Emperor himself received the report. His name was Velox IX, and he had ruled the Empire for 200 years. In that time, he had conquered 100 worlds and destroyed a dozen civilizations. He had never known fear. He knew it now. "How is this possible?" he demanded. "The humans were supposed to be primitives. Our intelligence said they had only been in space for 50 years. "It appears our intelligence was wrong, Your Majesty," the military advisor said carefully. "The humans have been hiding their true capabilities. For how long, we do not know, but clearly they are far more advanced than we believed." "And our fleet, where is it?" "Unknown. The humans claim they sent our ships to another dimension. Our scientists say this is impossible, but then again, they said many things about the humans that turned out to be wrong." The Emperor stood up from his throne and walked to the window. His palace was the largest building on the homeworld, a monument to the power and glory of the Valorian people. From here, he could see the capital city stretching to the horizon, filled with citizens who believed their empire would last forever. Now he wondered if any of it would survive. "What are our options?" he asked. "We could send another fleet," the military advisor said. "We have more ships, we have more soldiers. We could gather the full might of the Empire and crush Earth completely. And if the humans have more of these weapons, if they have more of these impossible ships?" The advisor was silent. That was answer enough. The Emperor was quiet for a long time. He thought about ordering another fleet to attack Earth. He had more ships. He had more soldiers. He could throw the full might of the Empire against this single world and crush it completely. But something stopped him. A small voice in the back of his mind. A voice that remembered the reports. 3,000 ships gone in hours. No battle, no resistance, just erasure. If the humans could do that to his border fleet, what could they do to the Empire itself? "Send a diplomatic mission," the Emperor said finally. "Offer peace, offer friendship, offer whatever they want. And if they refuse?" The Emperor looked at his advisor with ancient eyes. "Then we will learn just how angry we have made them." The advisor bowed and left. The Emperor sat alone in his throne room, surrounded by the symbols of his power. For the first time in 200 years, he felt small. Somewhere far away on a little blue world, humans went about their daily lives. They worked and played and loved and dreamed. Most of them did not know about the fleet that had threatened their world. Most of them did not know about the ancient ship that had protected them. They were just people, living their lives. But somewhere in the shadows, in secret places that few knew existed, other humans watched and waited. They had been watching for 200 years. They had been preparing for the day when the galaxy came knocking. And when that day came, they had been ready. They called themselves the Keepers. They were the descendants of the first humans to travel beyond Earth. They had discovered secrets that could change the universe. They had built weapons that could unmake reality. And they had made a promise. No one would ever threaten Earth again. The Valorian Empire was about to learn just how seriously humans took their promises. Ambassador Sarah Chen returned to Earth a hero, though very few people knew what she had done. The existence of the Patience of Stone was classified at the highest levels. Most humans believed the Valorian fleet had simply turned back after negotiations. Only a handful knew the truth. Chen stood on the balcony of her apartment in New Geneva, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and gold. The city spread out below her, millions of people living their ordinary lives, completely unaware of how close they had come to destruction. Her communicator beeped, and she answered without looking. Ambassador, this is Admiral Hayes. We have received a response from the Valorian Empire. What does it say? They want peace. They are offering a full treaty, including territorial recognition, trade agreements, and a formal apology for the attack on our moon. Hayes paused. They seem very eager to be our friends now. Chen smiled. Funny how that works. There is one more thing. Our sources inside the Empire say the Emperor is terrified. He has ordered all military forces to stay at least 100 light years from human space. He is telling his generals that the humans are not to be provoked under any circumstances. Good, Chen said. That is exactly what we wanted. If you do not mind me asking, Ambassador, how did you know this would work? The Keepers took a huge risk revealing the Patience of Stone. If the Valorians had called our bluff if they had attacked in force. It was not a bluff, Chen said quietly. Admiral Hayes, do you know why I became a diplomat instead of staying with the Keepers? No, ma'am. Because I believe in peace. I truly do. I believe that the galaxy can be a place where different species work together and build something beautiful. But I also know that peace requires strength. You cannot negotiate with someone who thinks they can destroy you. You can only negotiate from a position of power. So we showed them our power. Just enough of it. The Patience of Stone is impressive, but it is only one of our vessels. We have more, many more. Ships that can do things the Valorians cannot imagine. But we do not want to use them. We do not want to be conquerors. We just want to be left alone. And if someone else comes along, someone who does not scare as easily as the Valorians. Chen was silent for a moment. She thought about all the species out there in the galaxy, all the empires and civilizations, all the threats that might come in the future. The Valorians were powerful, but they were not the only power in the universe. Someday, someone else would test humanity's defenses. Someday, someone else would make them angry. Then she said, 200 years ago, the Keepers made a decision. They decided that humanity would never again be caught unprepared. They built ships. They created weapons. They trained soldiers. And they waited. For 200 years, they watched and waited and prepared. They hoped they would never have to use what they built, but they were ready if they did. And now we continue waiting. We continue preparing. We hope for peace, but we prepare for war. That is what it means to be human, Admiral. We are dreamers, but we are also survivors. We look at the stars and see beauty, but we also see danger. And we will do whatever it takes to protect our home. Hayes was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "Thank you, Ambassador, for everything." "Thank the Keepers," Chen replied. "I am just the messenger." She ended the call and looked up at the sky. The first stars were appearing, tiny points of light against the darkening blue. Somewhere out there, the Valorian Empire was learning a valuable lesson. Somewhere out there, other species were watching and wondering what had happened to the mighty border fleet. Soon they would all learn the truth. Humans were not primitives. Humans were not weak. Humans were patient and clever and dangerous. And humans did not like being threatened. The message spread across the galaxy like wildfire. The Valorian border fleet had disappeared completely. 3,000 ships, gone without a trace. The most powerful military force in the Eastern Spiral Arm, erased from existence by a species that everyone thought was young and primitive. Suddenly, humans were very interesting to everyone. On a dozen worlds, governments called emergency meetings. On 100 stations, intelligence agencies worked overtime. On 1,000 ships, captains looked at their star maps and noticed the small yellow sun called Sol. Earth, that was where the humans lived. That was where the impossible had happened. Some species felt fear. If the humans could defeat the Valorians so easily, what chance did anyone else have? The smart thing to do was stay far away from human space and hope they never noticed you. Other species felt hope. For 12,000 years, the Valorian Empire had bullied and conquered and destroyed. They had seemed unstoppable. Now, finally, someone had stood up to them and won. Maybe the galaxy could change. Maybe the age of empires was ending. And a few species felt something else entirely. Curiosity, ambition, the desire to know how the humans had done it and whether that power could be taken for themselves. The galaxy was changing. The humans had started something that could not be undone, and for better or worse, the universe would never be the same. 6 months after the disappearance of the border fleet, a Valorian diplomatic ship arrived in Earth's solar system. It was small, unarmed, and broadcasting peace signals on every frequency. The captain was a young officer named Vila, and she had been chosen specifically because she was not a threat. She was also terrified. Vila had grown up hearing stories about how powerful the Empire was, how no one could stand against them, how the Valorians were destined to rule the galaxy. Then the border fleet disappeared, and everything she believed turned out to be wrong. Now she was flying into the heart of human space, alone and defenseless. The Emperor had sent her here to negotiate peace. He had also told her that if she failed, the Empire would deny ever sending her. "Human vessel approaching," her censor officer reported. "They are asking us to follow them to a station near the 4th planet." "Follow them," Vila said. Her voice only shook a little. The human escort was a single ship, smaller than Vila's diplomatic cruiser. It did not look impressive. It did not have visible weapons. But Vila remembered what had happened to the border fleet, and she felt no comfort in the escort's small size. The station was built into an asteroid orbiting the 4th planet, which the humans called Mars. It was clearly designed for visitors. There were docking ports for different ship types, translation services, comfortable quarters. The humans had been preparing for this for a long time. Vila was escorted to a conference room where Ambassador Chen was waiting. The human looked older than Vila expected. Her gray hair was pulled back in a simple style. Her eyes were kind but watchful. "Welcome to Mars Station," Chen said. "Please sit down. Would you like something to drink?" "No, thank you." Vila sat carefully in the chair that had been designed for her species. It was surprisingly comfortable. "I bring greetings from Emperor Velox IX and the Valorian people." "And I welcome those greetings," Chen replied. "We are glad that the Empire has chosen diplomacy." "We have no other choice," Vila said bluntly. She had been told to be diplomatic, but she could not hide the truth. "You destroyed our fleet. You showed us that we cannot defeat you. We are here because we are afraid." Chen nodded slowly. "I appreciate your honesty. It makes my job easier." "Your job?" "Let me explain something to you, Vila. May I call you Vila?" "Good. Humans do not want to conquer the galaxy. We do not want to rule other species. We just want to live in peace. The problem is that every time we try to live in peace, someone comes along and threatens us." "Like we did." "Yes, like you did. Your admiral brought 3,000 ships to our border. He demanded that we submit. He attacked our moon. He gave us no choice. And so you destroyed our fleet." "We did not destroy it," Chen said. "We removed it. There is a difference. Your ships still exist. Your crews are still alive. They are in a place where they cannot hurt us, but they are not dead. We are not murderers." Vila stared at the human. You expect me to believe that? 12 million soldiers and you did not kill a single one. Believe what you want. We have recordings. We have proof. Your people are alive and well, living in a pocket dimension that we created for exactly this purpose. They have everything they need to live comfortable lives. They just cannot come back here. That is, I do not know what to say. Say that you want peace, Chen replied. Say that the Empire will leave human space alone. Say that you will never threaten Earth again. That is all we want. Vila thought about her orders. The Emperor had told her to agree to whatever the humans demanded. He had told her that the survival of the Empire depended on making peace with these strange, terrifying people. The Empire agrees, she said. We will leave human space alone. We will never threaten Earth again. We want peace. Chen smiled. It was a warm smile, not the cold smile she had shown Admiral Torvax. Then we have a deal. The negotiations lasted 3 weeks. Treaties were written and signed. Borders were established. Trade agreements were made. By the end, Vila had come to understand something important about humans. They were not monsters. They were not conquerors. They were just people who wanted to live in peace. But when someone threatened that peace, when someone pushed them too far, they pushed back. Hard. Vila spent her evenings walking through Mars Station, observing the humans who lived and worked there. She saw scientists studying alien artifacts. She saw engineers building new ships. She saw families eating dinner together, children playing games, couples holding hands. They were not so different from her own people. One night she found herself in a viewing lounge, watching Earth through the window. The blue and green planet hung in space like a jewel. It was beautiful. She understood why the humans loved it so much. She understood why they would do anything to protect it. A human man sat down beside her. He was old, with white hair and a gentle face. He introduced himself as Thomas, a historian who worked at the station. You are the Valorian diplomat, he said. I have heard about you. Good things, I hope. Thomas smiled. Mostly, may I ask you a question? Of course. Why did your empire think it could threaten us? Did you really believe we would just surrender? Vila thought about this for a long time. Then she said, we have conquered 1,000 worlds. Every species we met either surrendered or was destroyed. We thought humans would be the same. We did not understand that you were different. What makes us different? I am still trying to figure that out, Vila admitted. You are young. Your technology should be primitive, but somehow you have weapons that make our greatest ships look like toys. How is that possible? Thomas was quiet for a moment. Then he said, do you know what humans fear most? Death. No, we fear extinction. We fear the idea that everything we have built, everything we have loved, everything we have dreamed could be wiped away in an instant. We have been afraid of extinction since we first looked up at the stars and realized how small we were. That fear drives us. It makes us work harder, think faster, prepare better. We will do anything to survive. Even create impossible weapons. Even that, Thomas looked at Earth. 200 years ago, when we first discovered that we were not alone in the universe, we made a choice. We could have hidden. We could have hoped that no one would find us. But we knew that hope was not enough. Sooner or later, someone would come. Someone would threaten us. And we needed to be ready. So you prepared for 200 years. Every day, every hour, every minute. While your empire was conquering worlds, we were building. While your admirals were celebrating victories, we were planning for the worst. And when your fleet arrived at our border, we were ready. Vila nodded slowly. I understand now. You are not stronger than us. You are just more afraid. Perhaps, Thomas said. Or perhaps we are just better at turning fear into strength. On her last day at Mars Station, Vila asked Ambassador Chen a question that had been bothering her since she arrived. Your ship, she said, the one that defeated our fleet, how did you build something so powerful? Chen was quiet for a moment. Then she said, 200 years ago, we discovered that we were not alone in the universe. We sent probes to the nearest stars and found evidence of other species. Some of them were peaceful, others were not. We realized that someday someone would come to Earth with the intention of conquering us. So you prepared. We prepared. We spent 200 years building ships, training crews, developing technologies that should not be possible. We hoped we would never need them, but we knew that hope was not enough. The universe is a dangerous place, Vila. The only way to survive is to be more dangerous than everything that wants to hurt you. Vila nodded slowly. I think I understand. Good. Chen stood up and offered her hand. It was a human gesture of friendship. Then go home and tell your emperor what you have learned. Tell him that humans want peace. Tell him that we will be good neighbors. But also tell him this: never make us angry again. Vila took the human's hand. It was small and warm and surprisingly strong. I will tell him, she said. I will tell everyone. And she did. The story of the human victory spread across the galaxy. It was told in cantinas and council chambers, in schools and space stations. It became a legend, a warning, a promise. The humans were peaceful. The humans were kind. The humans wanted nothing more than to live in harmony with their neighbors. But the humans had secrets. The humans had weapons. The humans had ships that could do impossible things. And if you made them angry, if you threatened their home, if you pushed them too far, you would disappear. Just like the Valorian border fleet. Just like everyone who had ever tried to hurt them. The galaxy was learning a simple truth. Humans were not to be underestimated. Humans were not to be threatened. Humans were not to be made angry. Because when humans got angry, they did not forgive. They did not forget. They simply made the problem go away. Permanently. 10 years after the disappearance of the border fleet, the galaxy had changed in ways no one had predicted. The Valorian Empire was still powerful, but it was no longer feared. Other species had started standing up to them. Rebellions broke out on subject worlds. Trade routes shifted. The balance of power was changing. And at the center of it all was Earth. The humans had not conquered anyone. They had not threatened anyone. They had simply existed, peaceful and patient, waiting to see what the galaxy would become. But their presence was enough. Everyone knew what they could do. Everyone knew what happened when you made them angry. Peace spread like a slow wave across the eastern spiral arm, not because anyone forced it, but because everyone was afraid of what would happen if war broke out. The humans had shown that even the mightiest empire could be humbled. No one wanted to find out what else they could do. Ambassador Chen retired from the diplomatic corps and returned to Earth. She lived in a small house by the ocean, growing vegetables and watching the sunset. Sometimes she thought about Admiral Torvax and his mighty fleet. She wondered if he was happy in the pocket dimension, surrounded by his soldiers and his ships. She hoped so. She had never wanted to hurt anyone. But she had done what was necessary. She had protected her home. That was all that mattered. One evening, as she sat on her porch watching the stars appear, her granddaughter came to visit. The girl was 7 years old, curious and bright, full of questions about the universe. "Grandma," the girl said, "why do the aliens leave us alone?" Chen smiled and pulled the girl onto her lap. "Because we asked them nicely." "That is it, you just asked." "Well," Chen said, "we asked very firmly, and we showed them what would happen if they said no." "What would happen?" "Nothing good, but it does not matter now. They said yes. Everyone said yes, and now we have peace." The girl thought about this for a moment. Then she said, "I want to be a diplomat like you, Grandma. I want to make peace with aliens." "That is a wonderful goal," Chen said, "and I hope you succeed. I hope that when you grow up, the galaxy is even more peaceful than it is now. I hope that you never have to do what I did." "What did you do?" Chen looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Patience of Stone was waiting, hidden in folded space. Somewhere out there, the keepers were watching, ready to act if anyone threatened Earth again. Somewhere out there, the Valorian border fleet was living in a pocket dimension, peaceful and safe, and forever removed from the universe. "I did what humans have always done," she said finally. "I protected my family." The girl nodded, satisfied with this answer. She did not understand the weight of her grandmother's words. She did not know about the fleet or the ship or the choices that had been made. She was just a child, innocent and hopeful, looking forward to a future full of possibilities. That was what Chen had fought for. That was what all the keepers had worked for. A future where children could grow up in peace. A future where humans did not have to be afraid. They had made that future possible. They had paid the price. And now they could rest. The next morning, Chen received a message from the keepers. It was brief, just a few lines of text, but it made her smile. 57 species have requested diplomatic relations with Earth. Trade is flourishing. The Valorian Empire has released 3 of its subject worlds. The galaxy is changing, because of what you did, because of what we all did together. Thank you, Ambassador. Thank you for giving us peace. Chen read the message twice. Then she deleted it and went back to her garden. There was work to do. There was always work to do. But for now, in this moment, she could enjoy the sun on her face and the smell of growing things. The universe was a dangerous place, but humans had made a small part of it safe. And maybe, with time and patience and hope, they could make more. That was the human way. Dream big, prepare for the worst, and never ever give up. The stars shone down on the little house by the ocean. The waves whispered against the shore. An old woman held her granddaughter and watched the night sky. And somewhere in the darkness, humanity's guardians watched over them all. The galaxy had learned its lesson. Humans were peaceful. Humans were kind. Humans wanted nothing more than to live in harmony with their neighbors. But if you made them angry, if you threatened their home, if you pushed them too far, you would discover something that the Valorian Empire had learned the hard way. Humans did not lose. Not ever. And they never, ever forgot. In the pocket dimension, Admiral Torvac stood on the bridge of the Eternal Dominion and looked out at the strange sky. It was not the sky he knew. The stars were different. The colors were wrong, but it was peaceful. He had to admit that. The humans had kept their word. His crew was safe. They had food and water and shelter. They had everything they needed to live comfortable lives. They just could not go home. Sometimes, late at night, Torvac thought about the choice he had made. He had brought 3,000 ships to threaten a small world. He had demanded surrender. He had attacked their moon, and he had lost everything. But he had not lost his life. Neither had his crew. The humans had defeated them without killing a single one of them. That was the strangest part. In all his years of conquest, he had never met an enemy who fought without killing. Maybe that was why the humans had won, not because they were stronger, not because they were smarter, but because they were different. They saw the universe in a way that Torvac could not understand. They valued life in a way that he had never learned. He looked up at the strange stars and made a promise. If he ever got back to the real universe, he would be different. He would remember what the humans had taught him. He would remember that there was another way. But deep down, he knew he would never go back. This was his home now, this pocket dimension that the humans had created, a prison made of kindness, a punishment that felt like mercy. It was, he decided, the most human thing he could imagine. And somewhere far away on a little blue world, humans continued to live their lives. They laughed and cried and worked and played. They looked up at the stars and dreamed of the future. They did not know about the keepers or the secret ships or the weapons that could unmake reality. They were just people, living their ordinary lives. But they were not ordinary. They had never been ordinary. They were humans. And humans, as the galaxy was learning, were extraordinary. They just needed to be pushed before they showed it.